most essential tools for farms for lots of things, including marketing management. One of the most essential. And this lady here's got a 3G stick, and that's a techie way of saying that she's got a little thing like this that plugs in the side of her computer, and she's able to pick up internet by radio. That's what it is. And they're getting better and better, and the next one is 4G, which I understand will be along quite soon, which means it's faster and works in more remote places. Okay? So that hasn't taken off, but let's talk about this a little more, some other things. One of the things I've noticed over the last years is we have much more price volatility in the past 5 to 10 years for everything. Why? A chunk of it is funds. And if you're not familiar with what a fund is, basically a fund is a big pool of capital that's been offered to managers to give a return on. And one of the things that they invest in is futures in ag commodities, and of course crude oil and silver and gold and all the rest too. Okay? The idea is they invest on behalf of their clients in futures. And for all kinds of commodities. And the reality of this is, because they have such a huge pool of capital, if they decide they want to buy something because they think the price is going up, they move so much capital into that the price actually goes up. So that creates volatility. Now the other thing is, some of them make money out of the market going down, so if they bet the market's going to go down, they can actually move it down on their own for a short time. And so that adds more volatility. The good side of that, though, is when they move the price way above what the fundamentals or supply and demand would tend to dictate, that's an opportunity for us. It's a tremendous opportunity. And it happened not very long ago with wheat and canola and a number of those crops. And the interesting thing, of course, is because special crops have to compete with the big crops for acres, it moves the price of lentils and peas up too. So it allows us to have advantages in the marketplace that perhaps wouldn't exist otherwise. And I already mentioned this before, is that there's much more market information available now than even 5 years ago. And good stuff, quality stuff. Like I said, not what you read in the Western Seducer. Quality stuff that can help you make decisions. Okay? And there are more market advisory services available. Okay? It's like anything else on farms, you know. We can be the manager, or ranches. We can be the manager, but that doesn't mean we have to know everything. We can't. It's not possible. So, hire expertise if we need it. Hire expertise if you need it. Be prepared to spend money on expertise. Okay? So, just kind of in some closing things here, what do these young people want to think about? And actually, the next generation, the generation that's passing it down, what kind of lifestyle, what kind of an operation do I want? Do I want a lifestyle operation? Okay, if I do, then I need to have little or no debt, in my opinion, and have cash for reinvestment, for replacement or expansion. And when I say reinvestment, we all have to replace machinery, and we all have to replace buildings at times, those kinds of things, right? So we all have to reinvest in business, all on a regular basis, because if we don't, then we get obsolescence, which is actually a really dangerous place to be. Unless we're at the end of our cycle on the farm, and we don't have family members that are going to take over. Or, on the other hand, do you want a business-style operation? These young people, is that what they want? And it's easy to fall into the lifestyle one, because I know when I was in my early 20s and went back to the farm, even after university, I just loved doing the work. Because it was such a change from stressing my brain in class. But the reality is we can't do that on a whole lifetime career, okay? And another thing though, and I already alluded to this, is we need to believe in reinvestment. We need to believe that it's important. Reinvestment in our brains and what we know, reinvestment in new technology, reinvestment in new equipment. We have to reinvest. Any business that doesn't reinvest becomes obsolete sooner or later. And when it's like that, it's difficult to get back, often without a big capital inflow, okay, and time. And for new people, and you see this in really progressive farms, and that was what Sandy's Uncle Ken did. He sat in his office and studied and studied and learned. And that's what we need for new farm businesses or young people. We need to have the approach of, I need to believe in lifelong learning. Because as we all know, you know how change is getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster? If we don't believe in lifelong learning, we soon get left behind. And we need to do that to improve our production skills, our financial management skills, and our human resource skills. And finally, somewhere in there, and this is something that my parents' generation didn't learn very well, we need to be able to take time for personal development like hobbies, and we need to take time for family. My parents took their first holiday, when my dad was 68. And my mom didn't want to go. And how do I know? Because my son, who was about 11 at the time, he and I were out there to look after the farm, and we were loading grain trucks. And he went to the house, he had a drink, and he came back and said, I said, have they left yet? No. What's going on? Grandma's dawdling. How come? She doesn't really want to go. I mean, this is an 11-year-old, or 12. He figured out that Grandma was dawdling because she really didn't want to go. But learn to take time for hobbies. As part of that, that revitalizes brains. Okay? And, you know, I spend a fair amount of time around accountants lately. And I think that those of us that are ag economists could have way more exciting lives. And I'll show you one of the things that excites me. My wife doesn't mind me admitting this is my mistress. Okay? And her name's Carolyn. Named by my wife. Because sometimes she thinks that my mistress is a little more important than her. But it's one of my hobbies. Okay? And we all need to do that. If we just do work, life goes by way too fast. And we miss it. Okay? So, now, time for questions and discussion. Do we have time? We have a few minutes? Okay. Now, I should have said this right at the outset, and I didn't. I usually say at the outset, interrupt at any time to ask questions. Because if you wait for a lull in the action, you may miss. Or if you want to challenge me and say, Lee, I think you're full of it, that's okay too. Because I refereed hockey for over 20 years, all the way up to the senior level, and I've been challenged by the best. So none of you will ever come close. So now's your turn. Okay? Give it a go. And if you want to talk old cars now or afterward, that's okay too.
What year is your mistress?
My mistress was born in 1966. And when I bought her 3 years ago, she only had 48,000 miles. And it took me a long time to find one because my mom and dad had one of those, only a different color when I was a kid. And can I tell a story? Okay. My wife found out that I went on my first date in my mom and dad's car like this in '68. And the young lady that I went out with, her name was Carolyn, so that's how the car got named. And it's her mom. So that's the story of the car. Okay, let's get back to the real world here. Any questions or challenges? Yes, go ahead.
Just wondering, how do you distinguish, or how would we distinguish what is good marketing info and what is useless info marketing?
Okay, the question is, how would I or how would you distinguish what's good marketing information and what's useless? Well, I think the first thing is, the older it is, the less value it has. And that's why I say, if your only information source is what you get from the farm press, the longer it takes to get to you, the less value it has. like the Western producer, most of their stuff is written Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. The earliest you can get it is Thursday, right? So it's good for background, but when the rest of the marketplace has information that's, in many cases, less than hours old, if that's all you're relying on is the farm press, you're at a disadvantage right away. I guess the other thing is, here in Canada, in general, I can say, if you have to pay for it, it's pretty good. If you have to pay for it, it's pretty good. I have some that I like. I even produce the newsletter, but my unabashed advertising here. But my point is, if you're not paying for it, the information has value, so you have to wonder, how old is it? Every other business pays for information. My wife has a business in Brooks, and she pays for information related to it. My in-laws have businesses, and they pay for information related to it. Does that answer your question, kind of? Of course, the other side of that means you have to spend a little money to get it. The other side of the coin is you need to be prepared to spend time reading it and using it, because if you get it and don't read it and use it, you may as well not get it, right? Okay, yeah?
I'm wondering about politics and their pricing. As we know right now, there seems to be a lot of uprising throughout the world, and everyone's blaming a lot of it on speculators and fund buyers. What's going to happen there?
Oh boy. You know, I left my crystal ball in the truck. The question was, if I understand it, I'm wondering about the politics of the markets, right?
Yeah, what's going to happen as these countries...
And what's going to happen? Well, here's my belief. And you might say, oh, that's just economic talk. But markets are very efficient. And by that we mean somewhere in the marketplace, everything that's known is in the price today. That doesn't mean later today there may not be something new that wasn't known before that could impact prices. But everything that we know is in the price today. Doesn't mean we know everything, even anybody knows everything. And I'm not avoiding answering your question, I'm just saying that there are many things that we have no idea of the impact.
Is that one of them?
Which is that?
The politics.
Well, of course. The question is politics one of them? Absolutely. Politics or policy decisions always impact markets. Let me give you an example. Since last October, the Chinese central bank has demanded that their commercial banks increase their cash reserves, in other words, money that they cannot use for lending, 6 or 7 times at a 0.5 percentage point of time. So each time they ask those banks to set aside another 0.5 percentage point of their assets in cash. And each one of those is about $500 billion. So 7 times that is $3.5 trillion that are no longer available to be loaned for Chinese companies to import ag products. That's a purely political decision. And when the first one came along, everyone was surprised, or many of us were surprised. The other thing they're doing is the Chinese government keeps raising the prime rate, which further reduces the money supply, right? That can impact prices because that reduces immediate and potential demand. So absolutely, every policy decision related to that can have an impact. Absolutely. The question is, we really never know for sure what the impact will be till after it's over.
Are you capable of limiting the fund line going through, you know?
Oh, okay. So the question is anybody capable of limiting fund buying in the futures market? Yes, the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission is reviewing that at the moment. Okay, and I mean, you probably heard that on the news, or maybe you heard it and didn't know what it meant. Yep, that's being reviewed at the moment. Will it happen? I don't know. Because remember, these funds, if the current estimate is right, have over $100 billion that they're managing. $100 billion gives you a lot of lobbying power. And the rules have not been started